They called him Blackjack Jack, a man whose name was spoken with equal parts awe and fear in every smoky saloon west of the Mississippi. By day, he was a drifter, a ghost of a man with no town to call home and no past anyone dared to dig into. But by night, he came alive across felt-covered tables, cards in hand, and bets piling higher than a man's courage. Jack wasn't just good at cards, he was unstoppable. No bluff could fool him. No hand could beat him. Yet while some whispered about his genius with numbers, others insisted it was something far darker that gave Jack his edge. The legend goes like this. Jack wasn't just winning money, he was winning lives. More than one man had wagered everything to beat him, only to lose it all in the cold snap of Jack's grin. And when those debts couldn't be paid, well, the losers didn't seem to stay around town too long. One by one, men vanished like smoke, leaving behind rumors that Blackjack Jack wasn't just bluffing against mortals. But the story everyone remembers most is the one about his final game. It was a stormy night in a nowhere town, a kind of place where the wind howls louder than the voices inside the saloon. Jack had just finished cleaning out a local cattle barren and was about to call it a night when a stranger stepped forward. Nobody noticed when he arrived, but he was there now, tall and pale, with a face that seemed to flicker in the lantern light, like a shadow that refused to sit still. He carried no gun, no luggage, just a single deck of cards.
Jack, you and I were bound to meet sooner or later.
Jack raised an eyebrow. He never liked games he didn't start.
You got a name?
The stranger smiled, but his teeth looked too sharp for the dusty world they stood in.
Just call me a dealer of fates.
The room fell silent, dead silent, the kind of silence that clings to the air just before lightning strikes. Jack's lips curled into his trademark smirk as he shuffled his deck.
High stakes, I assume.
The highest.
The game that followed, folks say, was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Cards flew across the table like spirits possessed, bets that would ruin kingdoms swapped with every hand. Each time the stranger played, Jack was ready with a card that beat his. Every single time. But as midnight drew closer, something changed in Jack's face. His smirk wavered just slightly. His hands, always steady, hesitated on the draw. And finally, with the last hand of the night, the stranger offered a wager that carved itself into the dark corners of every onlooker's mind. Your soul, the man said, his grin sharp enough to cut through the storm outside. One hand, winner takes all. Jack's smirk returned, wider now, almost defiant. Deal, he said, and his voice didn't shake. What happened next? Well, no one who was there tells the same story. Some say Jack won because of course he did, but if he did, where did that stranger vanish to? Others swear they saw Jack clutch his chest like his heart was ripped clean out when the final cards hit the table. By morning, Blackjack Jack was gone, and not a soul could say where. The only thing left behind was his deck of cards, half-burned and smelling faintly of sulfur. And since that night, no card players ever matched his streak. But every so often, in some rundown saloon, someone always brings up Blackjack Jack. And the question still lingers. Was he the greatest gambler who ever lived, or the cleverest soul the devil ever took?